welcome to another episode of Discussions with Dr. Morton. I am Dr. Kwame Morton, Superintendent in Cherry Hill Public Schools, and I am thrilled and honored to be joined today by three very special guests who are with us today to talk about elementary enrollment balancing. Joining me today is the chair of our Elementary Balancing Committee, Ms. Renee Cherfane. Welcome, Ms. Cherfane.
Thank you.
Also joining us, Mr. Joel Mayer, member of our committee as well.
Glad to be here.
And also our fearless Board of Education president, Ms. Gina Winters. Welcome.
Thank you so much.
Now, I have many great questions today, and I want this discussion to help our viewers to have an understanding of some of the internal discussions that have taken place within the committee thus far, and some of the thinking and some of the frameworks that will be used as we go about the process of enrollment balancing. So I guess the first question is, just to start off, how did this committee come about? This is a relatively new committee, correct?
Mm-hmm. It is a new committee. So this year, the board decided to form a few special committees to work on special projects that are important and timely. So enrollment rebalancing of elementary schools was one of the things that we knew was coming. We asked board members who would be interested and available to work on the project, and several volunteered, including Ms. Cherfane, who's our chair this year.
Beautiful, beautiful. All right, so I'll go right over to you, Ms. Cherfane.
All right.
So as we think about this entire effort, this enrollment balancing effort at the elementary level, can you just give our listeners an overview of the opportunity that we're seeking to take advantage of?
Yeah, absolutely. So really the underlying issue that we're trying to focus on is projected enrollment increases in the 2028-2029 school year. Right. There's 5 elementary schools specifically that we're looking at that are going to need a significant amount of additional seats in that coming year. The first one being Clara Barton, projected 126 additional seats that we'll need.
That's a tremendous amount.
A lot, yes,
Yes,
absolutely. That's almost half of some of our schools.
Right.
Joyce Kilmer, 81 seats. Richard Stockton, 56 seats. Horace Mann, 50 seats. And Woodcrest, 24 seats. Lots of additional seats that we'll need throughout the district in those schools specifically. And this effort is to ensure that we're ready for the future while also maintaining a high quality education for our students.
Right, and absolutely. So, and those numbers that you cited came from our demographic study that was done about a year and a half or so ago by Dr. Grip.
Yes.
So hard numbers, and something that we definitely know we have to respond to. I guess I'll turn it back over to you, and I'll ask Ms. Winters. I'll ask you the next question as well.
Sure.
One of the things that we've asked the Board of Education to define in this committee to facilitate the definition of are the guardrails or the key factors that we are looking at that will help us to shape this process as we move forward. Can you just speak to that just a bit?
Sure, absolutely. So the first key factor is what Ms. Cherfane just spoke about, which is the demographic trends and projections that we have looking forward to see what our capacity and enrollment look like in future years. We're also looking at our current capacity and utilization of our schools across the district. Geographic considerations and proximity are a huge factor. And of course, always centered is the impact on our students and families going forward. So our goal is to minimize disruptions while addressing the future needs of the district.
Absolutely. Mr. Mayor, can you speak to some of the guardrails that the board has established in facilitating this process and as we move forward?
Sure, happy to. And of course, those are important. The guardrails that we've established thus far are, first of all, to maximize transportation and efficiencies in transportation so that costs and bus route times can be factored in appropriately. Also aligning special education programs, again, to minimize costs and to minimize student time on buses, which we know has become an issue from time to time. And we're also looking to develop long-term solutions to overcrowding. And by long-term, we're looking into the 5 and 10-year window. We are confident that if we keep our focus on those guardrails, we'll be very successful.
Beautiful, beautiful. And the board is open to what I've heard from the board. The board is open to a process that allows us to be sustainable long term. I think that was very, very important, and not necessarily looking at so many limiting factors that would impact our process and moving forward. So, Ms. Cherfane, so in the last few board meetings, public board meetings, you've shared great information for the public to allow them to have an understanding of the process, where we are and where we're going. Can you just speak to how the board is ensuring that the community has a voice in this process?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's why we're at the table, all of us. We're here to make sure that the community is being spoken for and that we're here to represent them. Transparency and community involvement is really central to this effort that we have. Particularly, there's going to be 3 opportunities coming up in the next month or so for the community members to be involved. Specifically, these are 3 community input meetings. So a couple of us from the board will be there to hear the community, topics that they want to bring up, their views, perspectives, all that kind of stuff. Those 3 dates will be Thursday, November 13th, our first one, at 7 p.m. This one will be at Cherry Hill High School East. Tuesday, November 18th, also at 7 p.m. This one will be at Cherry Hill West. And then we're going to be offering a virtual option on Thursday, October 20th at 7 p.m. All 3 of these meetings will be identical in nature. So if you want to come to one or all, they're open to everybody and anybody at that point. Additional to these meetings, updates will be shared regularly through our district's website and other communication channels.
Beautiful. Fantastic. Thank you for that. Excellent. Ms. Winters, so from the board's perspective, what will drive a successful enrollment balancing or rebalancing plan?
A successful plan will, first of all, address the projected enrollment increases that we've been seeing. Secondly, and this is really important, minimize disruptions for students and families going forward. Third, align with the guardrails that Mr. Mayor laid out earlier. And fourth, support the district's long-term goals and ensure equitable access to resources around the district.
And Mr. Mayor, so I imagine that I anticipate that there'll be some challenges and concerns from community members as we hear them in the input sessions and beyond. How does the board plan to address some of the concerns and challenges that might come forward from the community?
Sure. Well, we certainly understand that change can be difficult. And so in order to provide as much comfort as we can as we move forward, we understand the importance of listening. So one of the things that we know we need to do is to be committed to listening to stakeholders' concerns, stakeholders' perspectives. And we recognize that any 2 or 3 families will have a very different perspective on this process, and we want to understand that. So we look to these community meetings to provide that input so that we have direct feedback from the community, from the stakeholders. And we recognize the importance of being clear in our communications and transparent. The hope is that the clearer we are, the more transparent we are in communicating the decisioning process, that will help to make stakeholders understand really what were the factors that we looked at and how did we come to these particular decisions.
Beautiful, beautiful. And Mr. Cherfane, one of the things that you had mentioned is from that communications audit, those numbers come to full fruition in the school year of 2028, 2029. So we're starting this process now and somewhat early to give us a little bit of a runway as we move forward. But as we think about long-term goals of this effort, ultimately, what do you believe that the process should support and allow us to do?
Yeah, so there's a couple of goals that we've discussed as far as, long-term goals. One of them being creating a sustainable plan for future growth in the district. I think we all have seen many houses go up for sale and be snatched up immediately, many of which are families with existing school-age children or soon-to-be school-age. Lots of preschool families coming into district, lots of soon-to-be families. So making sure that we create a sustainable plan to support that growth. Also, maintaining high standards of education. We want to make sure that all students are receiving the resources that they need and as best that we can, equalizing that throughout the district. Just the same, ensuring that we have equitable access to those resources. Not only do we have them, but they're easily obtainable by all of our students. And also, as this whole discussion is about, it's really addressing the overcrowding issue that we have in a way that actually lasts. So the goal would be that 10, 15 years from now, we're not having the same discussion.
We don't want to do this again,
Maybe we will, but the goal for all of this really is to make sure that we're mitigating some of those issues that we can see being long-lasting if we don't act fast and act now.
Excellent, excellent. So, Mr. Mayor, how will the board evaluate the effectiveness of this effort once it's implemented?
Sure. So evaluations will be ongoing rather than just a single snapshot every now and then. So we'll be looking at enrollment numbers to see how those change. We'll also be looking at to ensure that we are utilizing our capacity correctly. So capacity utilization will be important. We're going to be checking in on efficiencies in transportation to each of our buildings. And equally important, perhaps more important in many instances, will be stakeholder feedback. We want to hear, as the process unfolds, what are the perspectives, concerns, what do the stakeholders see from their perspective.
Right.
And we recognize the importance of checking in and in doing that from time to time to ensure that what we are laying out now and as we continue to move forward is actually accomplishing the goals that we have set.
And just speaking of stakeholders, we had a stakeholder group last year began the process of helping us to craft out some possible recommendations and some possible solutions that we might want to explore further and move further along with. So I guess, Ms. Winters, in thinking about that, before we wrap up, can you just share a little bit about some of those possible solutions that have come forward and other solutions that the board may want to consider?
Sure. When the stakeholder group met, a couple of the ideas that they had for possible solutions to these problems were first, converting the Lewis Administration Building into an elementary school. Second, grouping our schools by proximity to optimize resources between and among the schools.
Right.
And third, comprehensive revision of the elementary school boundaries themselves. So each of these options obviously has pros and cons, pluses and minuses, and the board will have to weigh them carefully in addition to any other possible solutions that come forward as we begin this process of listening to and hearing from our community, who will, I'm sure, bring us more ideas on how to address all these enrollment issues going forward.
Absolutely. Just to be clear, there have not been any decisions made yet or any recommendations brought to the board, correct?
Correct.
All right. Well, thank you so much. That was awesome. That was fantastic. Very informational, outstanding. And I'd like to thank you as well for joining us and taking some time to spend this time with us just to hear this out. Remember, we will have 3 opportunities for our community to come out and to share their input with the Board of Education and with the administration. The first of which, as Ms. Cherfane said, November 13th at High School East at 7 p.m., November 18th at High School West at 7 p.m., and November 20th, 7 p.m. virtually. You can come to either of those meetings. Thank you very much. Take care.